Connie here. So last week in my newsletter, I wrote about using the flat circle diameter to help with custom hat sizing. Now, if you've worked for my hat patterns before, you've probably seen me talking about this, but I thought that it might make more sense if I did a little video to accompany it so that you can kind of see me doing the measurements and stuff like that. So what the flat circle diameter is you work your hat from the crown down, so from here down, and so you start with a flat circle, right? So your flat circle has a diameter that measures straight across, and if you work your flat circle to a certain size, it will give you, using a formula, the approximate circumference of your finished hat. Now this can vary a lot depending on your tension, the yarn you use. If you're using a superwash yarn, for example, it's probably going to relax, which means it's going to get bigger when you wash it. So knowing how your yarn is going to behave is pretty important when it comes to sizing things, especially like hats where you really want it to fit properly. But let's go ahead and jump in, and I'm going to show you how I measure and do the calculations to get an estimate, at least, of what the finished circumference, so around your head, of what the hat will be. Okay, so here we have, this is about a 4-inch flat circle that I have made using my butternut slub hat pattern. So here we'll measure across, and this is actually just a smidgy bit smaller than 4 inches. So I'll come back to that in a minute, but let's pretend that this is 4 inches across. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that measurement. We're going to take that measurement of 4 inches. We're going to multiply it times pi, which is 3.14. And that's going to give us, let me double check my calculator here, the flat circle diameter, which is 4 inches in this case, times pi, which is 3.14, is going to give you the estimated circumference of your finished hat. And so a 4-inch flat circle diameter times 3.14 equals 12.56 inches, or for my metric users, about 31.5 centimeters, okay? And so what that means is this hat, when it's finished, if I stop at that 4-inch flat circle diameter, like we have, like I showed you when I measured, if we stop there, then this hat is only gonna measure about 12.5 inches around. And most of us like a hat to fit with 1 to 2 inches of negative ease. And what that means is you want the hat to be a little bit smaller than your actual head size. And so that means if this finished hat is 12.5 inches, it's actually going to fit a head that is about 14.5 inches or up to that size. It depends on how much stretch it has, right? And how much stretch you want it to have on the person wearing its head. So that means it's a baby hat, right? So baby head sizes are in that range, around 14, 16 inches, toddler size. I don't have the exact measurements memorized, but I can give you a list of that too. That might be a good thing to add into a blog post. There's an idea. So let's say you want to make an adult-sized hat. The average adult-sized head is about 22 inches around. Like my head's a little bit smaller. Mine's only about 21 inches. Estelle here, she's modeling the butternut slub hat. Her head is about 21.5 inches around. And so it's a little bit bigger than mine, which means that a lot of my hats that I block on her are actually just a little bit bigger than I like them to be. But that's a story for another day. Estelle does a great job anyway. So let's take this formula and work it backwards. So if we want to have a finished hat that has a circumference of, let's say, about 2 inches smaller than the average head size. So if the average head size is 22 inches and we want it to have a snug fit, let's go for 2 inches smaller. So a 20-inch circumference is our target. So taking that formula backwards, I'm checking my measurements so I don't muck them up here. All right. If you want it to have a 20-inch circumference, you're going to divide that number by pi, which will give you 6.4 inches, or for my metric folks, 16 centimeters. And so that is your flat circle diameter again, right? Measuring straight across here. So that means to have an adult-sized hat, you want that flat circle diameter to be around 6.5 inches. Now, give or take, depending on the yarn, depending on how you like your fit, and then of course, depending on your head size, that's the way that you can calculate that. So again, the circumference, the intended circumference, which is the measurement around your head, minus an inch or two, or plus an inch or two, actually. If you have like fluffy hair, you don't want to squish your hair, then you might actually want to go up an inch or two from that size. But you take that intended circumference of your finished hat size, divide it by pi, 3.14, and that will give you the flat circle diameter that you want to work to. And so what that means is if you're working in the round, again, we're doing crown down, right? So you're working in the round until you have a circle that lays flat, right? And so your flat circle diameter is how much it measures going straight across. So if I wanted an adult size average hat, I would want to keep working this until it measured about 6.5 inches across. Now, Estelle back here is modeling the butternut slub hat. And like I said, this is a tiny bit bigger than what I like it to be because I blocked it on her. Her head is a little bit bigger than mine. So here, you see how it's just a little bit loose. It's not quite as snug, got my hair right in my face, as I might like my hat to be. So keep that in mind if you're blocking your hat, especially on a form that is bigger than your own head. If you want to make sure that it's gotten a lot of stretch to it. So see, this could stretch out quite a bit more to fit an even bigger head than mine. But if you want to make sure that it doesn't have, you don't stretch it out too much, don't block it on a head form that's bigger than your intended wearers. Actually, it would be better. I need to get about a 20-inch head, and that way it'll still fit nice and snug. All right, so that's my tip for using the flat circle diameter to help you get a custom hat size. If you've got questions about it, let me know, and I will go ahead and link to my newsletter, and I'm going to be working on a blog post as well so that this information will be available for you to use in the future. Oh, and don't forget, Butternut Slub Hat is releasing this Thursday, which I believe is the 10th. Oh, it's coming up fast. I didn't even realize it was that soon. Yeah, the 10th. Okay. Butternut Slub coming out the 10th. The hat, we already did the cowl last month, so make sure you're signed up to my newsletter if you don't want to miss that. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.